Hey Revs fans, you're in for a treat today. Welcome to your 2021 Revolution season preview. I'm Elizabeth Pehota, and we're going to be serving up all of the details that you need to know ahead of the New England Revolution season opener at the Chicago Fire on April 17th. The Revs are slated to play 34 games this year. They made 9 new signings, and of course, they have the leadership of 5-time MLS Cup champion, head coach Bruce Arena. Let's kick things off by hearing from Coach Arena himself.
Jeff Lemieux here in Los Angeles, California, in the midst of the Revolution's preseason preparations, and I am joined by the Revs sporting director and head coach Bruce Arena. Bruce, nice to be back on the West Coast, if only for a brief visit.
Yes, it's nice to be here. Hopefully it's a productive visit for our team.
I want to start just by taking a quick look at the roster as you head into 2021, because of the 27 players currently on the squad, 16 have been added since you joined the club in May of 2019. So just what has the process been like for you and your staff over the course of the past couple of years, kind of building this squad and laying the foundation that you have going into 2021?
Well, it's like it is with any team. You identify the strengths and weaknesses of your team, and you try to make some decisions as to how to make your team better. And I think we've been able to do that, but only time will tell. But I think we have a stronger roster than we've had the last couple of years.
And I know only time will tell, but 9 of the additions that you've made have been since the Eastern Conference Final. So as you look at this roster right now, how is it that you feel like you do have a stronger group than you did at the end of 2020?
Well, I think it's more experienced, and technically we're better. I think the returning players we have here are good players, and they've made the transition for our new players easy. And so far in preseason, we've seen progress, and hopefully that's going to be the case when the regular season starts as well.
Yeah, you have 18 returning players from that 2020 team, including all 11 who started in the Eastern Conference Final. And 2 of those guys are Adam Buksa and Henry Kessler, who had big roles to play last year, now head into year 2 in MLS. So what kind of growth do you hope or expect to see from guys like that who now have a little bit of that MLS foundation?
Well, Henry was one of our more consistent players last year, so we're confident he'll keep improving. Adam was a little inconsistent, and we're looking for consistency this year. And there's no reason to believe that he can't improve his goal production. That's important because he's a number 9 and he's expected to score some goals. So he's been working hard in the preseason. I think last year is a good experience for him because his background is such that he wasn't completely prepared for MLS, and I think over the past year he's demonstrated to us that he's making progress and he's going to grow in this league as well.
I know depth is obviously important in any team sport, but specifically as you look at the way the 2021 schedule is set up, there's going to be a lot of 3 games and 7-day stretches. So do you anticipate kind of having to dig into that depth even more so than a normal season?
I think we're going to have a rotation to some degree. At the very least, you'd like to believe that we have players that can play across the back line. I mean, one example would be A.J. De La Garza. He can play right across the back line. I think in the midfield, we have a lot of depth, and up front as well. In the striker positions, we can play Buksa, Bo, Bunbury, Kiza, and Rennick. So we're in good shape there as well. And I think in all positions in the midfield, we have depth, and certainly Brad Knighton can spell Matt Turner if needed, and Earl Edwards will be a player challenging to get on the field as well.
You mentioned depth across the squad. I was going to ask if there's any one particular position where you look at the depth and the way it's kind of played out in preseason and think there's going to be some pretty intense battles for minutes throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, I think our outside back positions would be one example of that because DeJuan Jones has done a good job as a left back. Moffler's been injured in the preseason, and when he gets back to full fitness, there's going to be a battle there. At the right back position, DeJuan can play there as well as Brandon By, and Buchanan can also. So there's going to be a lot of competition across the back line.
I know we haven't reached a sense of normalcy just yet, but it feels like we're inching a little more towards normalcy. So as you put 2020 behind you and you look forward to 2021, what is it you're looking forward to most about this season, just as we start to experience a few more of those things that are a little more normal?
Well, I look forward to the fact that we're not eating with plastic forks and paper plates all the time, and we're not being tested every other day, because it's getting old, and and it's there for a reason. We certainly appreciate and respect that, but we would love to get back to normal and have fans in the stands, and look forward to just being able to live a normal life. But having said that, I give a lot of credit to our league and how they've responded to the pandemic, our players as well, our club. It's been fabulous, and hopefully it'll pass in the near future and we'll be back to normal by the end of the year.
We all look forward to that. Bruce, thanks so much for taking the time, and best of luck in 2021.
Thank you.
For now, Elizabeth, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's talk about how the roster has evolved this year. After making an impressive run in the 2020 MLS Cup playoffs as the number 8 seed to the Eastern Conference Finals, the Revs have high hopes for 2021. Coach Arena added 9 new faces to strengthen the roster. Let's send it over to Brad and Charlie for all of the details on these new players.
Charlie, good to be back.
It's great to be back, man. I've missed you.
No, you didn't. Not that much.
I have.
Yeah, no, it's been a long off season, but not so long that we forget the 2020 playoff run. And the Revs returned the starters from that playoff run, plus they've made some robust additions. So this looks to be a strength inside.
It does. This is a team that had enough to get to an Eastern Conference final, on the verge of MLS Cup, and they strengthened their roster with in positions, key areas where they needed to bring in some depth and some competition. So I'm really psyched to see them this year.
All right, let's take a look at some of the new guys. Starting with Wilfried Kaptoum, out of Barcelona's La Masia Academy, played for Barca B, La Liga experience. Charlie, we thought he might be brought in to address the defensive midfield position, but Bruce Arena says he's more of a number 8, a two-way midfielder. He's mobile, good connector. Talk about Kaptoum a little bit.
Well, that's a player, when the Revs are in possession, he's going to be able to knock it from side to side. He's going to make himself available, find the good spots in between the lines. And when you talk about a team who's going to be dominating possession, when you have Carles Gil on the side, this is a valuable player who can really open up teams and find the right pass to break the lines.
Okay, and behind him at the number 6 position, we can't forget Luis Caicedo, out all last year. He is a great destroyer, and we know what his skill set is, but giving him a run for his money, it looks like Maciel, who really impressed with Revs 2, is now signed to the first team. Charlie, talk about Maciel.
Yeah, Maciel, I think, is a player that's going to have to take a little bit of time to catch up to the speed of play when it comes to the first team. He did a great job last year, I think, of finding a rhythm, getting into the right spots, and also knowing what Bruce Arena wants from that position. So I think he's going to take a little bit of time to get to have that adjustment. But I think when you have Caicedo coming in, it's like a new signing. When you get him fit and going, that really gives the Revs an edge.
And the Revs already have Matt Polster and Scott Caldwell, as well as defensive midfielders. Now, Colombian Christian Mafla addressing a big need, left back.
The Revs had needed a player who can get down the left flank and serve in great balls, left-footed, kind of what we saw last year from Alexander Butner. But I think the defensive presence, getting back, tucking in, I think that's what they needed, and they're going to use the width with Christian Mafla.
Yeah, and they have depth at that position as well. AJ De La Garza brought in, also DeJuan Jones. We know he can play in that spot. On the left wing, Arnor Traustason, Iceland International. Do you like this signing?
I love this signing. Arnor Traustason can play in a variety of different positions. He's played center mid for Malmo, and he scored 7 goals, had 8 assists, but he's also been on the wing. So this is a player you can float across the front 3 and tuck him in as a number 10.
All right, I already mentioned De La Garza. The Revs also signed Emmanuel Boateng, so 2 proven MLS pros who played for Bruce Arena in Los Angeles.
Bruce Arena knows exactly what he's doing. He wants a good locker room, and he wants players who can play different positions, who can contribute in different ways, not just playing, but also in training and also getting the guys together. So I love what Bruce Arena has done with this roster.
At center back, John Bell, the Revs added him from the Revs 2 squad.
When I watch John Bell play, I get the Darius Barnes vibes, former Revolution defender. Very agile, good athleticism, strong in the challenge, sees the field well. So I think there's a lot of upside with him.
And finally, draft pick Edward Kiza, Ugandan striker out of Pitt. He may get a look in.
He should. This is a player I watched for the past 2 years with the ACC network. He's always making runs in behind the center backs. good runs, hard to the near post, and a good finisher. When he gets that opportunity, he's usually clinical.
So lots of new additions to the side that made the Eastern Conference Final. Lots to look forward to.
Lots to look forward to. I'm excited. This is a big year for the Revs.
There's a lot to look forward to with all of these new players in 2021. One player, though, we've seen rise through the ranks over the last 3 years is goalkeeper Matt Turner. Turner simply has a Cinderella story. The undrafted keeper out of Fairfield University signed with the club in 2016, and in 2018, he got his first professional start. Since then, he's impressed, earned 16 career shutouts, Revolution 2020 team MVP, and in January, he made his U.S. men's national team debut with a clean sheet. While Turner has racked up the soccer accolades, let's turn it over to Jeff in LA to hear about the bonds in the locker room that have helped Turner along the way.
Jeff Lemieux here once again in LA as the Revs get ready for the 2021 campaign, joined now by Revolution goalkeeper Matt Turner. Matt, how you doing, man?
Doing well. It doesn't get much better than this.
It really does not. I would start by asking how your offseason was, but with U.S. national team duty, didn't feel like you were away from the game that much. But what's kind of an ideal offseason for you? Do you prefer to kind of stay close to the game in those winter months?
Typically in years past, no, actually. I try to not put the gloves on at all. I do a lot of work in the weight room and in the gym because diving around on the ground all season can really take a toll on your body. So I do a lot of work to try to take care of that, get some strength back into my arms and legs, and typically not until like a week or a week and a half before the first week of preseason, I'll start catching the ball again for the first time. But all the while doing footwork, working on the little things that I need to work on to become a better goalkeeper.
And now you're ready to go into year 6 with the Revs, year 6 in MLS. So last year was your 5th in the league, but it was the first time you experienced a really deep playoff run. So as you now head into the 2021 season, is there anything different about going into the new year on the back of an Eastern Conference Final run when you bring back the entire starting 11 from that Eastern Conference Final team, and as the expectations, at least from outside the organization, will be on the rise?
Absolutely, and we feel that, and within ourselves, we're trying to hold each other accountable, and our expectations are higher within our own locker room. So, I think a big thing for us this year is making sure we start the season off strong. We want to be able to lift the trophy for our fans and, give them something to cheer for, like I always say. But I think we've given them things to cheer for over the past few seasons in particular, and now it's time to deliver on some hardware.
And so many of the guys have said that the foundation of this team's success recently has been kind of rooted in the camaraderie within that locker room and the bonds within this group. So take me inside that locker room if you can and kind of explain that dynamic and then how that camaraderie can translate to success on the field, because I think that's kind of the most interesting part of it.
We've got guys that have been here and they have felt the same longing for winning as the fans have, and they've been through some good times and some bad times. And when you have a group of veterans like that are all very close amongst themselves, and they sort of can set the expectation, the standards, and help bring new guys up to speed a lot more quickly. And it comes from the coaching staff as well. That they create an environment where, you can tell somebody that they messed up, or you can help somebody try to get better, but you can't, if they have an ego about it, then you can't help them at all. So really just everything, all egos, all that stuff went out the door as soon as Bruce came in, and everybody just realized that we're much happier when we're just winning games.
Bruce Arena was asked about the leaders in the locker room earlier this preseason, and he mentioned your name amongst everybody else. So first of all, how does it feel to have been here long enough to be a leader, and how do you kind of try to fill that role a little bit, because there's so many leaders in that group and they all lead in different ways?
Absolutely. You have to prove yourself on the field, you have to prove yourself off the field, but you have to show up every day with the same mentality and be consistent in that sense. I think for me, like with the younger guys especially, I was that guy. I didn't come into the Revolution with some big background, like supposed to be the next big thing type player. I worked, and I feel like I really worked hard for a lot of what's come to me. So I feel like I can help younger players in that sense grow and see what it takes to succeed. They can look at the path that I've taken and realize that path is also possible.
There are some really tight relationships in that locker room, and there's also a really strong bond between you and the supporters. What's that going to be like for you the first time that you jog down to defend the Ford end? You're able to salute the supporters, salute the fans for the first time in really what will have been 18 or 19 months at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be special, you know. I getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now, you know, and I definitely miss that.
Yeah, Matt, looking forward to seeing you back in front of the fans in 2021 and looking forward to see what you guys can do on the field as well. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on again, Jeff.
That is all from LA. Elizabeth, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm sure there will be goosebumps involved for everyone for the Revolution home opener on April 24th against DC United. Speaking of players that supporters love to watch, you know him, you love him, your captain, designated player Carles Gil. After dealing with an injury to his left Achilles tendon most of last year, Gil excelled when he returned in October, playing an integral role in 6 of the Revs' 7 postseason goals. That's only a tease, though, of what could come this year with a fully healthy Carles Gil. Let's send it over to Brad and Charlie for some technical analysis on one of the most dynamic players in MLS.
Charlie, we don't agree on much, but I think we can agree that there were 2 parts to the Revs season in 2020. The part where Carles Gil was healthy and the part where he was out and not playing.
I think Bruce Arena did a tremendous job of addressing those needs, adding Polster, adding Tommy McNamara, adding Lee Wynn when they didn't have Carles Gil because they needed something to get them to the finish line, which they had Carles Gil for the second part of the season, and it was a completely different team.
Well, let's talk about what he does so well. Some of it's really pretty obvious. He can dribble, he can pass, quiet leadership out there, both sides of the ball, but there are subtle things that he does that very few, if any, other players in MLS do.
Absolutely. Carles Gil is one of the best players in Major League Soccer. And it's because of his knowledge, but also because of his technique and his wherewithal within the game to know and see where he needs to pop up, how he gets on the ball, controlling the tempo. And then when he does get on the ball, you can't take it off his foot. He's one of those really, really special players that doesn't come along too often.
And he really came alive in the playoffs. Okay, this counterattack goal against Orlando really set the tone, teaming up with Tajon Buchanan to dispossess Nani, and off they go.
Well, he comes over to help and forces Nani to go back inside where Tajon could pick it off. Then he gets back on the ball and he waits for that run to develop. He sees Tajon Buchanan overlapping, places it perfectly. So Tajon, all he has to do is make solid contact, put it across the box, and there you go. Goal revolution.
He also picks up great spots and always seems to be thinking steps ahead.
Well, here he's reading the defender's eyes. Never turns off, settles the ball, and then his head's up. He plays a one-touch and continues the movement. The movement from Carles Gil is spectacular. Always keeping the defenders on their toes, and his head's up, and he sees Gustavo Bo making that run in between the defenders, and then it's another goal. Carles Gil was special there.
And this against Montreal, a thing of beauty.
It is beauty. This is what you want from your attacking midfielder, and not too many players can give it to you. Tajon Buchanan out wide. He takes a look at the space. There's gaps, and he exposes those gaps. Makes a well-timed run. Gustavo Bo spots him, sets his feet, and gets over on top of the ball for that sweet volley, catches it on the sweet spot, and then also finds the corner. Fantastic finish from Carles Gil.
Yeah, he can finish, he can pass. Let's look at his chance creation map from 2020. Charlie, notable that so many come from that right half space where he can play maestro with his left foot.
Well, Carles is not afraid to get on the ball under pressure. And that's what you need your big-time players to do. Come for the ball, and whether there's one defender or 2 defenders coming up on him, have the confidence to play to his feet and know he will not lose it. When you have a player with those capabilities, it really adds a special dynamic to the team, and also you send a real clear message to the other team, back off, we have a player who can hurt you and find the right pass.
And also a good number for midfield.
Well, Carles Gil also is not afraid to mix it up. He'll come in, he's physical, small in stature, but the technique separates him from everyone else, and this is a player that really, when he's playing from minute 1 to minute 90 for a full season, gives the Revs a good chance to come home with an MLS Cup final.
And when he did play a full season for the Revs in 2019, Charlie, he was second in MLS in combined goals and assists. Not surprising, but he was also first in the league in possessions recovered in the final third. Carles Gil plays both sides of the ball.
Thanks for that breakdown, Brad and Charlie. If your technical analysis is any indication, there are great things in store for Carles Gil in 2021. Shifting gears, I'm joined here with Revolution Club President Brian Bilello. Brian, how are you?
I am great. Yourself?
Great. It's so nice to be sitting down with you. And there's a lot to talk about because it's the first time in over a year that Revolution fans will be at a game this April. It's been a long time. What are the club emotions as you're welcoming fans back to Gillette Stadium?
Well, it's going to be very special. We missed our fans from the club perspective, from the players and coaching staff perspective. I think our guys did a great job being professional last year in all the matches and playing at a very high level. But we all miss the fans, and they bring an energy and sort of remind us what it's all about when we take the field every week. So for us, it'll be a very special moment to have them back in the stadium for a match.
As we bring fans back, it's a whole new atmosphere. What are expectations for fans for this new experience at Gillette Stadium?
I think it'll be very similar to a lot of things they're doing today. Mask wearing will be required. We'll have social distancing, whether it's at the gates or at the concession stands. And then certainly when you're sitting in your seats, your ticketing pod, the group that you came with, will be 6 feet or more apart from anyone else in the stadium. So it'll be a very safe, friendly environment, but you'll be able to have fun, enjoy the game, tailgate in your car before the game. It's really the biggest thing is you're with your party. So you're in the stadium with everyone else and you're celebrating the Revs with everyone else. But on a smaller level, you're really just hanging out with the folks who came to the game. That's going to be the biggest difference, I think, for the first part of this year. And then, we'll see where things go. And hopefully as the year progresses and things in the world get better, we'll be able to open up a little bit more and have what's more like a normal experience here at Gillette Stadium.
You mentioned all of these special elements for fans that we frankly just didn't have last year due to the pandemic. What are you looking forward to having most about fans being back?
It's just the energy. It's the energy they bring to the game. I mean, we do this for the fans. I always tell people if you want to be involved in professional sports, it's because you like throwing parties. And it was kind of like we were throwing a party, but no one showed up at our party last year, and that's no fun. So for us, just seeing other people enjoy being here, spending time with friends, spending time with family, that's what brings joy to all of us that are involved in professional sports. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, to see other people here enjoying the fruits of our labor.
The party rolls on, especially because the Revs were so successful last season with their run to their Eastern Conference final, and they're looking to build upon that this year. You've had an opportunity firsthand to be at Revolution training in the 2021 preseason. How dangerous could this squad be?
Well, we think we're going to be very dangerous this year. As you mentioned, we really got rolling towards the end of the year. Obviously, getting a player like Carles back doesn't hurt by any stretch. But the team is very competitive. They're very engaged. They're playing well. We've brought in a number of new faces that will either help us on the field directly or provide competition that ultimately I think helps us. It's a very long season this year, so it's compacted, but there are many games in a much shorter window. So I think Bruce and the coaching staff and everyone really in MLS will need to probably rotate a little bit more. So having some depth across the board I think will be really good for us. But we love the team that we've assembled. We think we're going to be very competitive, and just as importantly, we think it's going to be a really fun, exciting brand of soccer with the kind of talent that we have.
Speaking of fun and exciting components, how likely is it that eventually you'll bring back Bacon Game Day?
We'll see. I think we'll get some wins on the board first, and then we'll talk about Bacon Game Day.
Thanks so much, Brian. The Revs are eager to get started this season. However, there's going to be some tough competition. New England will play primarily against Eastern opposition with 32 of 34 games against conference competition. Luckily, Brad and Charlie have everything you need to know about the Revs opposition.
All right, Charlie, we talked about the up and down Revs season, the injuries they had to deal with. They also lost Bo for part of the season, but they reloaded for the great playoff run. And then the off season, we talked about the new additions. Is it enough to be at or near the top in the Eastern Conference?
It is, because they have a really quality side. First 11, you have Carles Gil, a player is arguably the best midfielder in Major League Soccer. Matt Turner, arguably the best goalkeeper in Major League Soccer. So you have two really important pieces, and I think everyone else has really fit in well, and I think that's what Bruce Arena's job is. Okay, how can I best suit this team to go forward and win an MLS Cup? I think they have all the pieces they need to make a real challenge.
All right, well, Elizabeth talked about it just moments ago. The Revolution are mostly playing an Eastern Conference schedule. So let's look at your top teams in the East, since those are the teams that the Revs are going to be vying for playoff spots with, really, we expect, right down to the last part of the season. Starting with Nashville, who punched above their weight last year. Certainly they outstripped expectations. They're your number 6 pick in the East for this year.
I think defensively, they're one of the better teams in Major League Soccer. They really know how to be compact, play on the counter. They've also added some pieces that I think will take them into the attacking third a little bit quicker, and they'll be more efficient. I think this year will be the year for them to grow and kind of be one of the teams that can really make a push for the playoffs.
Philadelphia lost Mark McKenzie and Brendan Aronson. They both went to Europe, so you take the top team from the regular season last year and you drop them down to 5.
I do, because Mark McKenzie is the big hole they have yet to fill. Now, Brendan Aronson, fantastic player and has really continued to take another stride forward with Red Bull Salzburg, but Anthony Fontana slides right in, and Anthony Fontana is also a player with a lot of upside, a lot of potential, and has scored 2 goals in the last preseason game. So I do think that they have filled that void. Mark McKenzie is too big of a void for them to really stay where they were last year.
Orlando now. The Revs made the Lions sad and mad in that playoff game, but Oscar Pareja's bunch are tough.
Very tough team, and Pedro Galese, one of the better goalkeepers in Major League Soccer, has helped them. But Daryl Dike, making his really impactful season last year, gets the national team call-up, now on loan at Barnsley in the English Championship, has continued to progress. I don't see him coming back. And sure, they added Pato from Brazil, which is a very talented striker in his day. Still, you're missing DK. He's in England. I don't see them continuing to take a step forward.
Toronto, they made a coaching change, but Charlie, you still think they're a force in the East? You're predicting them to come in 3rd.
They have too much talent not to be a force. I still think there's some question marks with Chris Armas coming in, an unproven coach. How does he get them to gel and play well together? And at center back, Chris Mavinga and Omar Gonzalez, they weren't at their best last year. Chris Mavinga has to do a lot of carrying the weight because of Omar's lack of pace and speed. So if they can play well together and be healthy, they have a real shot. But as of now, they're number 3 for me.
And you're picking the Revs at number 2 in the East. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth. They have to defend set pieces better, and they need Gustavo Bo and Adam Buxa to bang in the goals.
If Adam Buxa can score goals and loads of them this year, they're going to be very tough to defend and to beat. But I still think there's question marks. Defensive midfielders to Andrew Farrell and Henry Kessler. That has to be strong. They need to be a little bit more consistent this year, and if they do, we'll be seeing them compete for that MLS Cup.
No surprise, your number 1 pick in the East are Columbus Crew, defending champs, still the team to beat, and they added Kevin Molino.
The rich get richer. Not only Kevin Molino, who's going to be a game changer for Columbus Crew, but Bradley Wright Phillips. And they also just signed a young DP from Europe. So I think this Columbus Crew team, and we've seen Caleb Porter, typically he makes the playoffs one year, and the following year he doesn't make the playoffs. That's been a trend. He's never made the playoffs consecutive years. So being MLS Cup champions, what does that look like this year? With those additions, I don't see them dropping off.
All right, finally, Charlie, let's go with some sleeper picks, or maybe not. NYCFC and Atlanta United are in a lot of people's top 6. They weren't in yours.
They're not. I'm going to go with Cincinnati being a sleeper pick.
Wow.
Now, still defensive issues, no doubt. Goalkeeper, center backs. But when you add Brenner, when you add Luciano Acosta, when you add some other players, Calvin Harris from the draft, I think they're going to have a lot going forward. You got Yaya Kubo, you have Jurgen Locadia. I think if those players are fit and healthy, this team is going to be very dynamic going forward, and we might see them win games 5-4, 4-3, that type of scenario. But this could be a team that surprises a lot of clubs in MLS.
It's going to be tough in the East this year. A lot of good games to look forward to.
Thanks, Brad and Charlie. That's your preview of the Eastern Conference. All the action starts, though, on April 17th when the Revs open their season at the Chicago Fire. We hope to see many of you the following week at Gillette Stadium when the Revs have their home opener on April 24th against DC United. Thanks for tuning into the Revolution Preview Show. I'm Elizabeth Pehota. I'll see you next time.